Good evening, everyone. Today is April 18th, 2016, and welcome back to Veterans Voices, a monthly talk show focusing on veterans issues. I'm Nathan Johnson, the Contra Costa County Veteran Service Officer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Graves, Gold Star father, and Calvet Link. Tonight is called About Face. We will be highlighting a wonderful painting project for veterans.
Are you a veteran involved in the arts? If so, what do? Does it provide an outlet for your stresses and emotions? Don't forget that sharing your experience could inspire someone to do the same and help a veteran.
We're now joined by About Face creator and director of the Arts and Culture Commission, Roger Wren, as well as project participant and veteran, Marine Corps veteran, Wesley Evans. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the set tonight.
So Wesley, I just said you're a Marine Corps veteran. Tell us a little bit about your service in the military first.
I was in from 70 to 71 when I was injured, and I was given a quick out without an exit physical, and so I've been fighting the VA ever since. And I got involved in this project with Roger here. And it seems like a really good way to get out of your body, out of your head. And a lot of the guys, we've been doing the art classes over there since 2009.
When you say over there, you mean over at the
Martinez yes, over
VA?
here at Martinez VA.
Very good.
And we seem to have a good turnout, especially when we have the watercolor people coming. And we get some very unusual things.
So, Roger, tell us a little bit about how this program gets started, where the funding comes from, and why you're involved in it.
Well, I'm with the Arts Commission, and we had an opportunity to participate in a pilot program. The state offered outreach to veterans, Veterans Initiative in the Arts, and we've pulled it together as About Face, focusing on self-portraits. And that was kind of the start of it.
I love the name. About Face is a command used in the military for turning the opposite direction, right? It's a command given to generally either an individual or maybe an organized unit like a platoon and such. So is there any symbolism in that name, About Face, in regards to art and having veterans do
Well, it's a play on words. Okay. About Face, of course, it's a self-portrait, so it's about face. But you're right, we saw that as sort of a command, kind of a attention getter. We wanted a sort of a strong logo or name to the program. Most counties are not implementing it the same way. This is kind of unusual that we have a direct involvement. We have a great instructor, and they were able to actually paint portraits.
And these are some of the artwork here behind
Yes.
us, is that correct?
Yes.
Very nice.
Beautiful picture. So you said other counties. Are other counties doing this, or is this something unique to right here in Contra Costa County?
The About Face part is unique. Other counties have a state program, and other counties applied for the grant. There was different ways they interpreted it, but we wanted to make sure that it involved the veterans community. We wanted to get them interested in the arts and doing something that was recreational and fun. And so we shaped it into more of a workshop deal where they came and they paint. And you know, it was short. It was a 2-day thing. So these were actually done in 2 days. Mm-hmm. But it was a little more fun and more engaging, we thought.
And Wes, you participated in this program?
Yes, I did. And the thing I'd like to mention is About Face is it brings the person into it, because you are putting yourself as a subject, and you're looking at yourself. Mm-hmm. You're looking deep into yourself to see how you feel. And a lot of it comes out in the art. A lot of the anger, frustration, and the mental anguish. And so it's a little cathartic.
And you've taken this a little further, though, correct? You're now are involved with an art class, or providing that opportunity for other veterans.
Yes, I am. Matter of fact, I do volunteer work over there, and we work for the art therapy department there. Just actually not therapy, but it was art. The art department, and we help the guys get their hand-eye coordination back together, and generally just make it a thing for us to go and do.
That's unique, though. I mean, that's not what someone would expect to see when they're visiting the VA, right? I mean, if someone's taking a tour of the VA and they come across an art class being offered to veterans, they might think that's kind of unusual. Or
Not really.
No?
We've been doing it since I've been involved since 2009, and we have a display case out there that everybody gets to see, and they like to see different things all the time. Right now we have showcasing all of our watercolors, and a lot of the guys are getting very creative with their watercolors.
But we're talking about a medical facility that's usually doing physical therapy and mental health and counseling and such. So, but people need to understand that there's other types of therapeutic things that are occurring at the V. Are there other examples of things being done there? Or are people getting involved in music?
Yes, we do have one of the guys that is involved with the program. He actually plays guitar while we're painting. And then we have another guy that comes in, and he will play the piano. And what is it? Darlin, she likes to sing.
Wow.
But you're right, there aren't a lot of opportunities, and so this was great that we had a chance to have veterans find out about this, and we try to expose them so that it isn't just 2 days, and there are ongoing opportunities.
Like a follow-up, and another place, if they really enjoyed it, someplace they can channel that energy and be productive and find something that they may have never found before.
Exactly.
The big thing is we're non-judgmental. And we don't care if you know how to draw, we don't care if you've done it before. It's how do you express yourself.
Now, do professionals come in to help out, to show?
The watercolor girls, yes, they belong to the California Watercolor Association.
Didn't even know there was one.
It's a national organization.
It's a national organization, and they are very, very good. Victoria Bianco is one of the main instructors there, and she's coached me quite a bit and showed me how to help other people with that.
So not only are they showing you some of the technical aspects of how to paint with watercolor, but are they also helping you to feel how you can express yourself through the painting, or does that just kind of, okay?
Yes, we have sometimes different demonstrations, we'll get a picture of sunflower. We'll do about 6 outside sketches of that, and then give each of the guys something to color, and then they fill it all in.
This is the great thing about having veterans with other veterans. Is
Right.
that, you know, they're a group and they can share ideas and they
Encourage each other.
They encourage each other. And some of it comes from the instructors.
Feel
but a
more
lot of it
comfortable.
just, you know, and there's a comfort zone there.
Because I'm a guy that draws stick figures, man. I'll admit it. I mean,
We love stick figures.
Stick figures is the
Sure.
best it gets. Maybe I'll drag some scraggly hair. So could you, if I was to say that, hey, maybe about face, maybe there's something, you talk about emotions, it really would be good for us to talk about where are these emotions coming from, but even the logistical part, the kind of the basics. The technical aspect,
Right,
thank you.
right.
Can you really take a guy that, like me, or a woman, and say that you can teach them how to draw like a nose? Can you teach them how to do something other than just the sticks?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. You can teach people, that's been proven, you can actually teach art. And so it doesn't happen overnight, doesn't even happen in 2 days, but it is teachable. But the other thing is that the belief is that veterans can help themselves. So just the fact that they're engaging and that they're trying and that they're making an effort, it's all good. You can't really make mistakes in art. And stick figures, Picasso's done quite well with his stick figures.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned making a mistake, because I think part of the fear of getting involved in art is making a mistake. You know, what if I put the wrong color down, or what if I make the nose a little too
But it's about the
crooked?
process. It's not about the end result.
And have you been able to witness, I don't want to say healing because we're not talking about therapy, but have you been able to witness improvement or expressiveness or feelings of accomplishment by the end result when they're done?
But in the person themselves,
right?
Not
Within
necessarily
the
in
individual, not necessarily the finished product as a painting.
A lot of emotion comes out as they're doing it, and when they sit back and they look at it.
Speaking of emotion, I want to invite our audience into the conversation tonight. We're talking about the use of art and really aligning that with your experience as a veteran, and maybe your experiences in the service, or maybe your experiences even before or after the military, and how art, whether it's drawing, watercoloring, or even something like music, has helped you. What is it that you as a veteran have done to express yourself and really describe and explain your experiences in the military? What do you plan on doing once the veteran has come in and they've sat down for a couple of classes, what's the next steps? Can a veteran pick this up and participate in any ongoing art classes, or can they participate in a gallery display of their art? What's the next steps for a veteran?
Well, for the people that did participate in this class, these workshops, we will be displaying their artwork starting out in the county building in May, and then we're going to be touring it throughout the county, through the libraries. But in addition to the Veterans Hospital area where they have some ongoing programs, almost every community has art classes in Concord and Martinez and so forth. And so we're going to try to make sure that people that are interested in that find out where those are, make the connections, and let them continue either on their own or with support groups. Art can be done anywhere.
And are you planning to, is it too late for anybody to get involved in this project, or do you plan to offer your 2-day classes in the future, or do you hope to, so that people that are hearing about it tonight may be able to participate?
Well, John's wish is to have this going all year long, and he's certainly welcome at Art Euphoria in downtown Martinez, and there's certainly opportunities for veterans to paint. He's very generous, and in his studio there's opportunities. We are applying for another grant, and we'll have another round of workshops in spring of next year. So yeah, we're going to continue the program, and we hope that we get a great participation.
Fantastic.
What can the community do to be involved? I mean, obviously it's an art program for veterans, but
Donate.
Donate. What can they donate? I mean, what's needed to do this? I mean, we talk about a grant.
Canvases, brushes, paints, no oils. We can't do oils, but we do acrylics, watercolors. We do pastels, art supplies, sketch pads, odds and ends. We're constantly getting the materials from the VA. We get some, but we kind of run through the stuff. We end up taking some old ones, repainting them, and repainting over them. You know.
Yeah, I would imagine that they can. Is there time needed also? Can they come down and volunteer as instructors, or take some kind of active role in marketing these types of opportunities? I mean, there's got to be a challenge, Roger, in actually reaching out to the community and getting the word out to people. So is there a role for the community in that aspect?
Yeah, the Arts Commission is always open to the public. We're open for ideas and participation. Anybody can come down to our meetings and get involved. Let us know who they are. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities as individual artists, or as veterans artists, or just artists in Contra Costa County.
And Wesley, I find it unique that you kind of, when you talked a little bit about who you are and your experiences in the military and how it didn't end the way you wanted it to, and in fact, there's some issues with the VA that you're still struggling with after all these years.
Yes.
40-some years?
40-some years. 71, that's a long time.
But yet you
45.
still will take your time to go to the VA.
Yes, I have.
Donate your time to work with other veterans.
Right.
I've made
Putting
friends
all that
there.
aside.
Yeah. I've made friends there, and there's lasting relationships with the people there.
I think that's absolutely wonderful. And that's really, as many of our listeners and our viewers in the area know, that's, it's kind of what you had said before, veterans helping veterans. And that's such a huge point. And it's so beneficial to so many others. So I think that's very commendable on your part to give your time to do that.
I just like doing it.
What does it mean to you? I mean, when you walk away from it, Wesley, I mean, what is you mentioned the veteran and their experience and their emotions, but yourself teaching art or participating in art.
I enjoy it. I've always had an artistic flair, and I just like to do it. I like being there. I like being the camaraderie, helping the guys, setting up the place, laying out the canvases, getting them their paints, their brushes, getting them set up, and giving them pictures to figure out, well, what do you want to paint today? You want to paint a tree?
Yeah, I can't help but think that art has got to be kind of a social sport in a sense, where it's not just an individual effort where you're sitting alone and working on a canvas, but you guys actually might be engaging around the ideas of art, right? Around around selection of what you draw about. I mean, we've got some fascinating things back here, and if we were to have this painting back here on the left, for example, the very colorful one, yeah, there's probably a whole conversation that could be had about this piece that kind of brings people together and in some kind of common bond, and they have something to connect with.
That's angry.
It is interesting, the three that you chose to bring here tonight, because they are dramatically different. One is very descriptive. It's pretty, I mean, I don't know why all those things are there, but but you can tell that there's a lot of emotion involved in that. And then you have a fairly realistic one. This gentleman was a 91-year-old 91-year-old World War II vet.
Correct.
And did a phenomenal job. I don't know if he'd had any prior experience or not.
No, actually, he had not.
That is just unbelievable. And then we have this kind of abstract piece here, which is just amazing. Absolutely. In fact, that's my favorite, to be honest with you.
So when artists get around and they kind of stare, I mean, is there a I guess a continued comradeship, or are they connecting with each other on a level even beyond the military? Are they connecting with each other as artists?
As
taking
friends.
on a new hobby as friends?
Artists, friends. We get there, and what we do is we show up. We got to get the guys to show up.
There you go.
Right? That's the hardest part. Once they get in and they get hooked,
Got it.
then they start producing.
So Wesley, an obvious question is, where's your self-portrait?
It's not up there. Mine's a little on the dark side.
The dark side.
Space for three.
Come into the light, Wes. Come into the light.
But Nathan, I'll have to say that in the About Face program, one of the things that we did when we designed it is John, the artist, and some of our other support staff, we stayed out of the conversations.
Okay.
Whenever we did the preliminary drawings and the discussions, they were always just veteran to veteran.
Got it.
And we deliberately kept those conversations somewhat private.
Well, we've got a special treat for our audience tonight, so we'd now like to show you some footage from the About Face project and how veterans are really expressing themselves through paint on canvas. We've got a great video for you. Take a look.
Hut in, hut! All Contra Costa veterans. The Arts and Culture Commission of Contra Costa County, together with County Veteran Services, is offering free special workshops to all Contra Costa veterans. The program's called About Face and is a 2-day workshop for veterans to learn how to do self-portraits to help them build self-understanding. Taught by noted Disney artist John Kleber in his studio in Martinez, the workshops are open to all Contra Costa veterans of all ages and all branches. They're free and absolutely no artistic experience is required.
It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed meeting the guys. We were all from different walks of life.
The workshops will be conducted on 5 dates in February and March. Go to the website ac5.org and look for About Face. It's a great experience for you and your buddies, and it's a lot of fun. Sign up today at ac5.org. About Face!
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in tonight, our topic is About Face, the Veteran Self-Portrait Project. We are still taking your calls during our discussion and would love to hear your story or questions. Please feel free to call in at 925-313-1170. Great piece. Absolutely great piece.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about where that was filmed and the studio that you guys are working out of.
So the studio is in downtown Martinez, and it's a really great working space. It's got everything a studio should have, a floor that you can spill paint on. And we were lucky to have an artist who actually has a background, worked for Disney, and is an extremely talented artist and a very good teacher. But there is something about the authenticity of working in a studio and just having that presence and the stuff that's around you that really motivates you to do good work.
Yeah, I got to go there for one of the workshops, and I would absolutely agree with you. There's a lot to learn by just walking and learning your way around a studio. I mean, things are in very specific places. What's the paint area called?
The paint bar.
Paint bar. There's a paint bar, right? It's like it's the area where you can literally just walk up and like you'd select a drink, you could select
a color.
all of your paints. And then there's this kind of 1980s era machine, but it does something phenomenal. What does it do?
That's offset printing. So it's a studio that does a mirage of different things, and one of the things that he can do is you can do linoleum cuts and have them printed, or you can actually do some other type of printing, but that's a press that you run the paper through.
So this is a professional artist that gave up his studio space for the project, is that correct?
Yes, yes. He teaches classes in the daytime, and we were mostly coming in there in the evenings or weekends. But he has worked with small children, he works with high school kids, he has after-school programs, and he has a lot of tutoring where he actually teaches one-on-one to adults.
It's a really neat place. It looks like an old warehouse that's been really well done in being converted into this art studio, and it's in beautiful downtown Martinez. Which, if you've never been down there in the evenings, it's really quiet, and the sun just shines against the beautiful green lush hills. Roger, you and I were admiring that last time. And I really want to thank you, Roger, for being on the set tonight and for sharing with us about Face. And Wesley, thank you for your service and for being a part of this important project, because I think what this gives is credibility to the program, right? When a veteran like you, Wesley, who is an artist, is participating in this and saying, this is a real thing, this is valuable, you should give it a try, that has a lot of meaning to it. So thank you both for being on the set tonight. Roger, thanks. Wes, thank you. And this is really a great project for veterans, and thanks for all the work you do. We want to invite veterans to participate in About Face. This is an important opportunity for you to become involved in something that may benefit you. You may be able to share your service with others by doing this. If you'd like to get involved, go to our website for more information or visit ac5.org. Next, we'd like to share an interview and painting demonstration our producers did with John Kleber, the About Face painting instructor. Feel free to call or send us a chat during the video. We will still be taking your calls and monitoring your message. Take a look.
Hi, I'm John Kleber from Art Euphoria, and I'm the lead instructor for the About Face program. But I was figuring basically this to be nothing more than them learning how to paint, learning how to express themselves, and giving them visual metaphors to work with that might coincide with their feelings about themselves. Like if you came back from the war and you basically felt invisible, like you didn't know, people didn't notice you, maybe you came back and you were somehow hurt or disfigured in some way, people would be afraid of you. And these guys start to feel disenfranchised. And some of them downright feels just like I was invisible. Nobody, and when I did get seen, a mother walking her child across one side of the street, if I was on the same side of the street, they'd move. They'd move over to the other side of the street. And you start hearing some of these stories and it makes you feel really, really down for these folks. You want to help them. You want to do something to boost their self-esteem and get them back into the, and this one guy came to me and said, John, I just want to be part of something. I don't care what it is. I just want to be part of something, and I like art. So I thought maybe I could get a job here with you, or you might have work here for me. And the last thing I want to do is turn a vet down. I said, gee, I'm sorry, guy, I don't have any money. This is an art studio. We don't have any jobs. I'd love to have you here. He would even volunteer just to be part of connecting with the community again and connecting with people again, after they come back. So a guy like that might feel, I might give him a visual metaphor that says camouflage. You're like, that's a military thing and you're camouflaged, only the camouflage is the city. You're camouflaged like the city so that you blend right in and nobody sees you, nobody pays attention to you, there's nothing. And so to give them metaphors like that and to say, if you came back and you're happy, you're well adjusted, you're very proud of what you did in the military, then maybe you want to think of metaphors like a rooster, a peacock, whatever. You're proud, you're out there, and give them ways to communicate with color and with shape that will allow them to tell their story. So we would start out with something like this, and in the very beginning, I wanted them to start small. So we'd start small. We'd do these little tiny drawings. Try one of these. Take 30 seconds. Do the drawing in 30 seconds. And then I'd give them a minute and say, okay, now do one in a minute. And then we'd do a series of these. They'd have 4 or 5 or 6 to choose from by the end of the evening. At any rate, I tried to come up with, to get them to begin to draw. And as they would go on through the evening, I would let them draw longer, and hopefully they would come up with a little more detail each time, just a little bit more detail. I didn't care if it was perfect. It didn't matter. Just try to get a little bit more detail. Everybody has a particular way you're going to handle a brush or a pencil or a pen or anything that you write with, anything that you communicate with. There's a certain way that you're going to manipulate that tool and use that tool. And so that's where a lot of where their personalities came out. Okay, so we'd end up with getting a projection of the portrait onto the canvas, and then the first step is we come in and I get them to do something very simple. And this is really, we're gonna cover the entire canvas with a wash, and this more or less allows them to feel what it's like to put this on a canvas, to make marks on a canvas, and it takes some of the apprehension out of it. Like if I just gave them a said, okay, start painting yourself, that wouldn't, the first few strokes that they're going to put on the canvas are going to be horrible, and they're not going to, it's not going to help. So I try them, I get them started by doing something really simple. Just doing these washes just gives them a really nice, oh, I can smear this stuff on the canvas. John doesn't care if we have drips coming down. We use acrylics for all of this. It's the easiest paint to deal with for novices. It dries quickly. It cleans up with water. It thins with water. And it dries complete. Once it's dry, it's bulletproof. It's literally bulletproof. It's just as steadfast as oil paints are. So what I'm doing now, once we get the wash on there and the wash is dry, then what I try to do is get them to go back in and find the areas where the darkest darks would be. That's things like the pupils, the lines around the eyes, the upper lip, the shadow underneath the nose. I want them to get a basic outline of the piece. So I just have them kind of come around like this and find the neckline here. Then I know there's a shadow underneath the neck here. So all I would do is just begin, and I'm using burnt umber, I'm using a brown color. Most of this all is just an underpainting. This ends up getting covered with more opaque paints. So I kind of just begin doing it this way. I find the nose, come in here. There's a little shadow that's from the underneath of the nose. Then I know I've got the upper lip here. So I paint the upper lip in, find where that goes. Then there's a shadow underneath the lower lip. You can begin to see the face already starting to appear. We put a little shadowing down here underneath the chin, on the bottom of the chin. I'm going to go here and find the other side of my face there. And then I start working my way around on the canvas how I feel about working is there's no set form or process here. I like to work all over the canvas at once so that I don't want to start in one corner of the canvas and come down and work that way. I want to work a little bit here, a little bit over here, a little bit over here, a little bit over here. It helps so that my strokes, the strokes that I have, are consistent throughout the entire painting. Just like when you work on a movie, they don't work on a movie in a linear fashion from the beginning to the end. they work in sequences, and they shoot different sequences all over the film so that you're kind of working over the entire, it forces you to look at the entire picture, the big picture. It makes you look at the big picture. If you were doing it and you were doing it in order, it would be much harder to follow. It would be much harder to follow this big picture idea. So what I want to do is just get all of the bones, so to speak. And I'm not talking about bones in a literal sense, but the framework for the portrait. I want to get that in right up front. That's the first thing I want to try and do. And even if things aren't perfect and they're not quite in place, it doesn't really matter. I'm just looking more for approximation. I'm looking more to have it be close. Just close enough so that these guys can kind of move on and be able to have some sort of framework as they're beginning to apply the more opaque paint. I found my light source. My light source is coming from this direction. So I want highlights over here. Dark shadows are going to be on the other side of the face. So for instance, the nose will have a dark side to it. You can already see how things are beginning to pop. It's beginning to have some dimensional qualities to it. And the more we paint, the more those dimensional qualities begin to come out. It doesn't take too long before you begin to see the entire face. It looks like I'm a little bit, like this might have wanted to be over here a little bit further. I can actually do that. I can fix that in when I go to put my opaque paint down. I also tell these guys, don't worry about making a mistake. If you make a mistake, you can paint over it. There's just a few seconds before this is going to be dry, and I'll be able to go over everything again. And anything that I don't like, I can paint out or I can change. I try to get this going. Just want them to understand where all the parts are. I always tell them, please, if you can, remember, paint with the form. If you're painting across something, try to imagine what that form feels like and paint with the form so that your strokes follow the natural lines of the face. In this case, it's the natural lines of the face because we're painting portraits. If you were painting a landscape, it'd be different. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding a background. We're abbreviating the process in the interest of time here. We're abbreviating the process so that you guys just can get a little bit of an idea what one of these begins to work like. This is totally nothing more than the underpainting process. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get all the way to the point where we have a finished product to look at, but this will give you somewhat of an idea how these things go and how the process goes. We come in and we start to paint the background, and of course the background causes the figure to pop because we now have more contrast. Mostly when you're trying to learn about painting, it really comes down to values. And when I say values, I mean lights and darks. How well have you depicted the contrast in the piece? You need to have contrast in order for things to pop out, to get dimensional, to get depth in your work. You need contrast. That's all it really is. When I used to work with Disney, you know how colorful all the Disney work is. We used to take all of the frames that we would design for a film and we'd shoot them in black and white. And then we'd look at them and study them in black and white because that's the only way we could really determine whether or not the contrast was correct so that the character would pop. The character would pop off the page. So we get ourselves a little bit of a background here. A lot of army green. I saw a lot of army green backgrounds. I saw guys painted themselves, often they painted themselves in their military uniforms. If they were in the Navy, we saw a lot of blue. If they were Marines, green, and so on and so forth. So they really were trying hard to pick up the, this idea that I tried to instill in them, which was use your metaphors, use colors as metaphors, use shapes and objects as metaphors. One guy that was there doing it, his job in the military was to mix up napalm. We all know how awful napalm is and what it does. And so he had some really bad feelings about what he had done in the military. So I tried to get him to bring that out in his painting, one way or another. Show us, paint fire in the background. Whatever you think will work. Okay, so this really is just the beginning of the process, guys. If you want to see more about it, you want to learn more about it, you can call me at Art Euphoria. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Other than that, happy painting.
And we're fortunate enough to have the finished product here with us today. That was a new segment for us. We haven't done that before, and we hope you enjoyed seeing how the actual process works, and we would invite you to participate. We'd now like to turn our attention to a veteran in our community who has a lot to say on the concept of thank you for serving. This also is a new segment for us that we're doing, and it's called The Veteran's Voice. We welcome Denny Riley to the show. Denny, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. I really want to emphasize the fact that we're doing this for the first time. We've
Right.
kind of reversed the concept here. We've invited Denny as a veteran to have an open forum and to share with us any experience or any story. And so we've always kind of picked the topic and then picked the veteran, but we've done the opposite tonight. So welcome, Denny. Thanks
you.
for being here.
Thank you. Do I have the floor?
It's yours.
Thanks. So I'm going to give a summation of my military experience.
Oh, you're welcome.
One angle of it.
Welcome.
So in 1963, when I was 18, I graduated from high school and I joined the Air Force. After basic training, I went to Armed Forces Air Intelligence Training Center in Denver, Colorado, and learned a few things. One, I learned how to read U-2 high-altitude photography, and we learned how to recognize every Soviet aircraft, every Soviet military piece of machinery and equipment, every Soviet civilian construction equipment, piece of equipment or machinery. And thus we could look at these photos, these high-altitude U-2 photos, and know what was going on in Russia. We could see power lines being built across Siberia, or runways being lengthened. Or while I was in Strategic Air Command, the 2 years, I watched a freeway network be built around Moscow. It was connecting missile silos, but it was a freeway. Wow. So I also studied radar scope photography, so I could look at a radar scope, all those blips and whatnot, and I would recognize where it was in the world. It was a strange thing, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed all that. And we also worked studying maps and charts, intensely studying maps and charts and how to read them and put coordinates on there, read coordinates and put them on there. Because we were being trained to work in the Strategic Air Command and build the war plan, as it's called, the nuclear holocaust. It's called the war plan, and we were going to build the target charts that went from our base all the way to the other side of the planet to Moscow or wherever. So my first permanent assignment was a Strategic Air Command base out in the Great Plains. We had B-47 bombers and we had Atlas missiles. They were armed with nuclear weapons, and they were on alert, ready to go at a push of a button every moment for years and years and years, and we still have this going on. In fact, right now the United States is spending $1 trillion upgrading and researching new nuclear weapons. So the Cold War, as far as nuclear safety, is not over. So, but for a couple of years, that's what I did every day. I worked on the target.
What years was this, Danny?
I was in SAC. I got there in January of '64. And I left there in January '66. And while I was there, we started bombing North Vietnam. Our country started bombing North Vietnam, not the outfit I was in. And all of us young guys just wanted to get over there. We just wanted to get over because there was something real going on. And, you know, as intriguing as SAC might have been, it was really boring. You know, we were out in the Great Plains. And we all got our wish. We got to go over there. But I actually, when I got my orders came down, I was surprised to see that I got orders to a base in Thailand. And I soon realized that, and was told that the deal was the massive bombing campaign we were initiating in Southeast Asia was so big there wasn't room for the air bases we needed in South Vietnam. We had a friendly relationship with Thailand, you know, obviously probably gave them, you know, $100 million a year or something like that. So they let us put our fighter wings on their Royal Thai Air Force bases. So we had 5 Royal Thai Air Force bases that we had our military on. And 80% of the bombing in North Vietnam came out of Thailand. And it was secret that we were there. It was secret that we were bombing North Vietnam from there, but it was like everybody knew it. How could you not know it? I mean, I got orders to going to Thailand. I told them, I'm going to Thailand, I'm going to Thailand. Then I get over there and they say, don't tell anyone, it's secret that you're here. Well, a little late, guys. Told everyone from New York to here.
Got it. But you thought it was more of a kind of a vacation or something, like some light duty. You didn't expect it to be anything of a real combat element, it sounds like.
Well, I wasn't in combat. I worked in the target room. I'll tell you, when I went to work, I worked in a windowless building surrounded by sandbags and barbed wires and guys with M16s. And I went in there, and that's where the war happened for me. But it was war. I mean, every day I plotted targets were blown up. You know, every night I worked night shifts. And every night, what I did was destroyed the next day, you know, et cetera. And I saw what we called BDA, bomb damage assessment photography, just showing me what we did. But I wanted to tell you, the first time I walked into the target room, I got a jolt that is still with me. I mean, I walked in, and I knew we were bombing North Vietnam. I knew that whole program was going on. And there was something exciting going on in the target room. And I was led over to a project they wanted me to work on, and I looked down at it, and it was a special forces camp on top of a mountain in Laos. And I turned to the sergeant who I was working for. I said pointedly, we're not supposed to be in Laos. And he kind of gave me a smirk and a wink and a thumbs up. And that whole idea that, look, there's all the rules, and then there's what the guys upstairs know we're really supposed to be doing. So, I mean, I had this much moral qualms about it. I was 21, I'd been in the service since I was 18. I didn't really think for myself, but I knew we weren't supposed to be in Laos. But
why was it such a secret, though?
let me tell you, let me tell you this. The other day I spoke to a group, and these people thought they knew all about the Vietnam War, and I said, how many of you know where Laos is? And nobody knew where Laos was. I said, how many of you know we bombed Laos for 10.5 years? And not anyone in the room knew we had done it. I just read something today in the paper about them starting to recognize Hmong soldiers who fought on our side in Laos. And they were Laotian mountain men that the CIA trained to fight on our side in Laos, a war that we lost. And in the paper, it didn't mention Laos. It talked about them fighting in Vietnam. For some reason, we still do not mention Laos. We dropped 2.5 million tons of bombs on 1 million people in Laos. And we did it entirely in secret. I mean, no, look at the way the Air Force intelligence is in the Air Force, there's a few people at the top at any base who knows what's going on, and everybody else is in support. I was on a base, a couple thousand guys, and there was only about maybe 24, 25 of us knew what was going on, that we were bombing Laos. When I got out, you know, well, anyway, I went back, after I was there for a year doing that, came back to the States, was in a U-2 outfit myself for a while, and then I went back over again with the first B-52s, and it was called Operation Arclight. We were bombing South Vietnam, doing this carpet bombing. The targets were 6 miles long and 600 yards wide. We were just taking it out like that, you know, and then I got out. Then I got out of the service. And when I got out, I was proud to have, I'm not going to say I was proud to have served, but I was proud to have done something that took some recognition
Okay.
You know, I was selected to do this work. I had my security clearance was top secret, single integrated operation plan, extremely sensitive information, crypto access. So I had a really high clearance, and I thought, man, that's flattering to me, that whole thing. I enjoyed that, you know. Yeah, but I was confused about a number of things going on, particularly the Laos thing, that there was this secret war going on that the country wasn't recognizing. And I had done many other things that just absolutely weren't right. Like, we had a pilot one time, had a communication problem. He got up into China, and one of our other birds had to go up and get him, and they're down in the valleys coming out being chased by MiGs, and they come out over the Gulf of Tonkin and land at Da Nang and then come back to our base. And I was there for the debriefing. I was, you know, there when they were debriefed. I know
it's
these.
Not secondhand, it's
No,
firsthand.
no, yeah, I'm telling you, this isn't. If I'm jaded, it's firsthand jade. and so so of course this is great for the Chinese. So it's all of a sudden on the airways, and there's headlines. Chinese say America's penetrated their airspace, and we just flat out denied it. We just said we didn't do that. And you know, we were so, particularly then, so anti-communist in this country that you would never believe the Chinese if the American government said we didn't do it. So that kind of thing happened a lot, where we would do something, and the North Vietnamese or the Chinese would claim we did it, and we just say we didn't do it, and that was the end of it. And that really, I got to say, bothered me. But after I was out, I can't remember how long, there was a headline in the paper, and it harked back to something that happened to me. When I was the first time I was over in Thailand, a pilot came back. He said, "There's Russian bombers at an airfield right outside Hanoi," and we're all going nuts about this. They could have bombed, you know, Philippines, Australia, certainly our base, Saigon. So we sent a photo bird up there, and he came back, and he had photos. There were Russian bombers, Badger-class bombers, on a base outside Hanoi. And we sent these photos off to headquarters, and they went off to the Pentagon, and probably to the White House, because LBJ really knew what we were bombing. He specifically knew what we were bombing. So all these people saw that. We never heard anything more about it. And the bombers just sat there, and we didn't. I got out. I'm out of the service then, and I'm walking around thinking about that. And sometimes you go, did that really happen? Am I nuts? Am I remembering this wrong? And then, yeah. And one day, and I can only think it's because the peace movement was gathering a certain amount of momentum. One day there was a headline in the paper, "Russian bombers in North Vietnam." And there's an aerial photo of these Russian bombers at this airbase near Hanoi, and it's the photo our photo bird took when I was overseas. And our government had sat on this thing till it benefited them to tell the American public. We still did nothing about it. It just was absolutely my first experience of our government, me really knowing our government participates in propaganda as much as anybody else.
You feel, I always get the sense you feel kind of deceived.
Totally. No, you know, I think I said this to you before. Listen, I went in just a nice American kid, played high school football and all that kind of stuff, you know. All my brothers and sisters went to college, but I was goofing around. I went into service. I came out a guy who just didn't trust his government anymore. I don't trust the government to tell me the truth. The other day I saw a headline that says, Iraqis say 12 civilians were killed, semicolon, Americans deny it. I don't know what happened there, but I know we would definitely lie about it.
It makes you question what you're saying.
Any claim like that.
It makes you question what you hear about the wars.
Any claim like that, I just doubt. And I doubt it not because I'm cynical. I may be cynical because of that, but I doubt it because of my own first-hand experience, you know. So
we talked about something like this a couple shows ago. It was kind of the moral injury aspect of having served in combat, and having served in a war, and just how can, it sounds to me like the way you were brought up and the values and just I guess kind of the way you trusted people in general and trusted organizations was lost in seeing things that most people don't see, and seeing things maybe that you weren't even supposed to see. Yeah. How do you feel about it today when someone acknowledges your service? And I wasn't in Thailand or Vietnam, right? So when I think about your service, I can't help but feel grateful for the fact that you served during a very difficult time in which the war in Vietnam wasn't popular. But how do you feel about it when others reflect on your service?
Well, you know, nobody ever thanked me for my service till around 1988 when we were invading Iraq, and President Bush said, and those Vietnam vets haven't been thanked. You should thank them for their service. And people started quite literally just coming up to us and saying, thank you for your service. So it wasn't organic or a groundswell of people suddenly appreciating it. They were told to thank us, and it is, to me, an empty gesture completely. That they thank me and they bounce off and they're off doing something else. I might have related to this. I was checking into a hotel in San Diego, and when the girl saw I was a veteran, she just said, "Well, thank you for your service." And I said, thank you, I appreciate you doing that, but you got to be careful doing that, because some guys are really damaged by what happened to them in the military, and they might not want to be thanked for it. And honestly, that's the way I feel. I don't want to be thanked for some of the stuff I did, and you don't know what I did. I shouldn't be thanked for it, you know?
It's not like you delivered a package to their door and they're saying thank you. They're saying thank you for something that
they're
they
saying
really don't
thank you
even
for
know.
your service, assuming that we're the guys on the white horse and everything we did was noble. And now we came home and no one ever thanked us, so we should be
There's
thanked.
another aspect of that
Sure.
too, though. And as a Gold Star dad, as somebody whose son has given his life for his country, they're thanking you for putting yourself in harm's way, though, too. You know, when you weren't drafted, you
I volunteered.
You went in voluntarily.
Sure.
You knew we were at war. You knew that there was a risk, shouldn't say even though you were in the Air Force. You knew that there was a risk.
That's absolutely true.
You weren't infantry, let's put it that way.
No way.
But there was still a risk that you were going to be in a hot zone.
Right.
And I think that's what they thank you for. I think they thank you for being willing to go out and do what you're told to do, at least at the time, without having all those questions.
Right.
You know? So you can't completely discount the thank you.
No. Okay. I agree with you completely.
Okay.
And I really appreciate it coming from you. I honestly do. But I said to the young lady, rather than thank, she said, "Well, what should I do?" I said, I advised her maybe. And she said, "Well, what should I do?" I said, "Why don't you ask him how he's doing? Ask a vet how you're doing." And my feeling about that is the one doesn't engage. You could just drive down the street yelling, "Thank you for your service," out the window. If you start asking, "What can I do for you?" or "How's it going?" you suddenly are putting yourself in a position you guys are voluntarily in anyways. You guys are already doing that. Right. But I mean, this girl was, well, anyway.
No, I appreciate your view. You know where I'm coming from,
I do.
too. I'm trying to kind of put the other side on that, because people don't know what to do.
They don't.
Your point. Exactly. They just don't know what to do, so they thank you.
And for years and years and years,
for some,
they
it
didn't
means a lot.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Denny and Kevin, we're out of time.
Oh.
This has been fantastic.
Go figure.
I really value this segment, and I want to invite our audience to participate in this. Denny, you've been courageous because we've never done this before, and you took the opportunity to come on tonight, and you shared yourself, and you shared your experience. Whether we agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. It's your experience, it's your voice, and we appreciate that so much. You did so well. I really thank you. Good. And I invite you again to participate in our show by calling in, being part of this segment just like this, the Veteran's Voice. On our website, you'll find information about the resources we discussed during our show tonight. You can also get the same information by calling the Veterans Service Office listed on the last screen. For more information and to get involved with the About Face project, go to ac5.org. Veterans for Peace works to heal the wounds of war. They can be found at veteransforpeace.org. Gratitude America provides support for military service members and their families during their return to civilian life. Call 925-313-1481 or visit our website on the screen.
Memorial Day is coming up in May, and there are lots of great events for veterans going on. Here are a few that you might be interested in. For a full list, visit our website. On April 21st, there will be a memorial service in Pittsburgh at Small World Park starting at 10 a.m. On May 21st, the Walk of Honor for Veterans Armed Forces Day will be taking place. And again, that information can be found on the screen. On May 24th through June 10th, About Face Building Veterans Understanding Through Self-Portraits will be having their gallery opening at the Art Passages Gallery in Martinez. Admission will be free. Please come check it out. On May 29th, the Veterans Business Collective will be holding its first annual benefit golf tournament at the Delta View Golf Course in Pittsburgh. It's for fun, and all skill levels are welcome. These events will be on our website, and if you have any event you'd like to be featured on our show, please email us or write us with the information.
There is a new way to become involved in Veterans Voices. We're forming a viewer advisory panel to provide feedback and direction for future shows. So far, 12 of you have signed up, and we want many more. Your opinion can make a big difference and help us do a better job of meeting the needs of veterans and their families. You can help guide our direction with a very small commitment of your time. As a member of the viewer advisory panel, you will receive a brief email each month with a short 5-question survey. Participation is simple, but your input will help us tremendously as we continue to improve the show. To get involved, sign up on our website. We want to thank our guests and our viewers. Thanks to the production crew. This is Veterans Voices of Contra Costa, wishing you all a good evening, and thank you for serving.